evening, everyone, and welcome. This is the first lecture in a series of 4 by Tate. Many of you know. Timothy is a scholar in philosophy and consciousness and has a thriving psychotherapy practice in Bozeman. Tonight's lecture, again, is the first in a series of 4. The title is Now is the Time. And Timothy is going to be sharing with us some ideas about consciousness and how it fits in with the evolution of our species. At the back of the room is a sign-up sheet, and I would love to have your email addresses to let you know about the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th sessions, because we do not have dates or times planned for those yet. And we have 2 handouts at the side wall here. One is a resource list, and then another is an edited transcript of an interview with Dr. Brian Swibby that I'm guessing Timothy will talk about. So without further delay, I would like to welcome Mr. Timothy Tate.
Well, good for us. This is pretty crazy. It's, say now is the time and look who shows up. These are your peers. This is your tribe. This is your group. Notice them. These are good people. We'll talk a bit about some concepts tonight that I'd like to lay out for you. And then we're going to talk about what I have laid out. We'll have a little discussion. So I'm going to kind of lay about 7 cards on the table, and then we'll work those concepts a bit, and they'll be the building blocks for the time coming. And not only perhaps in a big sense, but for our lectures and for our talks together. So we want to engage each other in this conversation. I'm not here to convince you of anything. I'm not here to try to make you believe anything. That's been done enough to you over the years. I'm compelled to stand up here and take this risk this evening to begin a process in our community about what has come to me through both dreams and my own meditations as to what's important, what's vital for these times. And it's kind of fun. I looked, I read the New Yorker fairly regularly, like it's my Bible. It keeps me sane, what's going on in New York and the world. And so I pay attention to what happens on the day I'm going to do something. So this arrived today, which I thought was kind of entertaining. I got a laugh out of that. I haven't read it. And then in the paper today as well. Oh, I'm sorry, you didn't see it over there. Yeah. And then this was the other thing that I got in our wonderful little paper. The doomsday clock ticks forward. The scientists have moved it to 5 to midnight. So that's what happened in the news today. So what I would like to do is introduce to you a perspective that is built on some assumptions that we want to work together and refine in dialogue. So the way we're going to start that is through the dream time. Consciousness and unconsciousness are a polarity that within us as individuals and with us as a collective are in tension. And so I like to play the tension between those 2 poles when I understand something. What's coming from my unconscious, what's coming from my intellect. So we'll be using a little of both tonight, the intellect and the unconscious. So we'll start with a dream. And it's a very brief dream. And it came to me on the 11th of November, 2006. And here it is. That was the dream. I've never had a dream like that before, and that's why I'm standing here in front of you. I've never had a symbol drawn in the ground down to my left. Those marks, just like I did that. By a hand, and that was it. And you can see all sorts of things in that. It might be formula, it might be calculus, it might be what one woman who I respect, a dreamer, told me it said, what came to her when she saw that. Anybody? 11th hour. That's what she said. That kind of unnerved me. I hadn't got there yet. It hadn't occurred to me. I was just shocked that I was given something like that. So, imagine that this is the 11th hour. Imagine what that might mean, is what we're here to talk about. Without fear, without apocalyptic mentality, although Apocalypto was a hell of a movie, without that sense of the end is near. I'm not here as some sort of madman prophet telling you that the end is near. But oh, by the way, the end is near, just so you know. Not in any kind of scary way, although the latest movie I saw, Children of Men, was an incredible movie that I encourage you to see about this. It's more about what is shifting. So when we look at big shifts, which happen occasionally in your life individually, in our lives collectively, in this community, this library building is a big shift. This is way different than the place on Lammy, if you hadn't noticed. This was a vision of people in our community to create a space that we could grow into. And that's all I'm talking about here. I'd like to create a space about what might be going on in the collective unconscious and the collective conscious, about what we might be moving into. So we pay attention to the dream time. That's all I want to say about the dream time tonight. I'm not going to bore you with dreams. One friend of mine says, I hate listening to other people's dreams. It drives me nuts. They're all excited about it. I'm going, yeah, that was a nice watermelon, and that means what? So I'm not going to bore you with a dream, but I am going to keep that in front of us, and now you know. That's my responsibility. I had to get that out. I had to put it in our town, now you know. But there is another kind of sense that is important to pay attention to when we consider consciousness, and that is the view from below, from Hades, from the dark side. Hades and Zeus, the god of the upper world, were twin brothers. One looked down on things from above, the intellect, and one looked down from things below, images. And so it's important to take both perspectives into account. This is the perspective from below, and now I'm going to talk a bit about the perspective from above. So the next point I want to make is when a shift occurs in our collective imagination, we might understand that as an archetypal shift. Now, I'm not going to be too pedantic and go into a description or definition of archetype, but for those of you who are unfamiliar with that term, let me just say that an archetype is a universal force from the collective unconscious that pushes for expression in individual or collective lives. It's an idea. Carl Jung, of course, was its sponsor and its generator, although Plato mentioned archetypes in his work as well. It's been a long-standing idea that there are universal forms, universal ideas that seek expression in individual lives. And part of the trouble we have in our day-to-day life in our society is, what's the matter with me? How come I'm all screwed up? How come I'm so neurotic? What's the matter? How come I can't figure things out? When all the while, it's this huge universal force trying to be expressed. I hate to tell you, but it's not about you. Thank God. Gods and goddesses. It's not about you anymore, is the point of this lecture. So you can go right there right now. You've had your run. You've suffered a lot. The ego beat the hell out of you. You're all worked up about a lot of personal problems. Giddy up. But that age, that era, that epoch, that archetype is over. And as we have learned from the studies of psychology and of deep, or it's called depth psychology, whenever something is finished in you or something is finished in a society, it's very hard to let go of it, even though it's killing you. Kind of funky. Jung put it this way: whenever you experience the self or a power of vitality and energy that is more than you can handle, your persona, your sense of yourself, feels defeated. It throws a tantrum. It doesn't want to lose control. And here we are in an archetypal shift, and we're addicted to what's killing us. So we have to pay attention to what is moving without identifying with it. So the archetype that is shifting, I'm suggesting, is the archetype of information and data, which is called Hermes, or in Latin, Mercury, the winged messenger. If you hadn't noticed, everybody's pretty interested in talking these days and sending information. Ever since Gutenberg created movable type 550 years ago, we've been pretty busy communicating. The internet and language and cell phones. It was the first time today when I was driving home that I didn't see anybody in a car besides myself who wasn't talking to somebody on a cell phone while they were driving. Every car had somebody talking. Maybe they were talking to each other. But the archetype of communication, I need more information, go onto the internet, get more data, knowledge solves problems. That whole archetype, Hermes, Mercury, is dying. That's not where you're going to get the kind of information you need, is the point of this talk. It's coming from another source. What is the archetype we're shifting to? I'm suggesting we're shifting to, in Greek, no, it's actually in Latin, it's called aurora. In Greek, it's called Eos. In Sanskrit, in the Hindu tradition, it's called, if I can say that properly, Usha, U-S-H-A. Dawn. I was lying in bed last night and I went, it's the dawning of Aquarius. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going back to 66, 67. Let the sun in. I was like, oh my God, they were right. I thought they were so corny. But the dawn, do you know where east is, by the way? The dawn is the new archetype I'm suggesting is coming into play. From Hermes and Eos, or from Mercury and Aurora, from Mercury to Aurora. We're dawning now. How do you relate to the dawn? So, the third point, I've made 2. I'm going to make 7. This is 3. This one's going to be a little tricky. But the brain is addicted to itself. Not to all the things you think you're addicted to. That's secondary addiction. The brain is addicted to itself. All it knows how to do is repeat itself. Go have the same thoughts. The same thoughts. It repeats itself. The brain is a wonderful tool, but it has a bit of a problem. It's addicted to its synaptic cycles. A great little film that came out not too long ago, What the Bleep Do You Know, really helped us understand that. Another movie called Giant Leap helps us understand that. The movie Children of Men, American Beauty, Vanilla Sky, K-Pax. K-Pax? What was that other movie? That's not right. At the same time as American Beauty. The whole idea that there's another source of information that's available that's beyond the capacity of the synapses to retrieve is what I'm talking about now. So the brain is addicted to itself, and I'm going to call that synaptic reality. And the synapses that your brain has that keeps trying to make sense of this world, how you doing? Is it working for you? Asking why and trying to figure this stuff out? It makes you nuts. The brain, synaptic reality, has its limitations. The archetype of knowledge, of thinking, of information, the brain, synaptic reality, era is over. There's a whole nother reality coming on that I'll get to in a minute. But that synaptic reality leads me to this third position, this third point, and that is perception is not reality. Now I'm going to take a drink on that one. You know all this stuff, by the way, that I'm talking about. Take a breath, breathe a little. We're getting a little heavy here on me. Let me run at this again. Perception, the artifact of synaptic reality, is not reality. Okay, that point has tremendous implications. What you perceive of me, of yourself, of what's around you, is a nice idea, but it's not reality. I thought for the longest time that my perception of reality was reality, and indeed it is, but it's not reality. The Buddhists have a way of talking about this. They call it the veil or the illusion, Maya, the source of all suffering. Your idea, your perception, your sense of past experience that you keep projecting onto yourself and those around you, that synaptic reality is not reality. Perception is not reality. This has tremendous implications if you hang with me for a little bit longer. I can't really talk for more than 45 minutes without going weird on you, so I'm going to try to stay 45 minutes because I really want to know what you're thinking, but I really want to get this down. We're making a tape of this too, both audio and visual. Audio visual? That's like back in grade school, right? I was in, what do they call it? AV aid, audio visual, yeah. Roll the little cart around with the stuff on it to classrooms. That was me. So, in order to get out of synaptic reality into the flow of something I'm going to be talking about, it takes a tremendous leap of insight, a leap that the brain says, don't do under any conditions. You will die. And it's right, you will. The ego will die. The persona will die if you take this leap. So it's going, no. I have a dear friend who is an institution in Ireland. His name is John Moriarty. And he has founded an institute by the name Slí na Fianna, which is the Irish words for your adventure with immortality. The Irish language has no word for death. It only has Slí na Fianna, your adventure with immortality. The ego is terrified of that adventure. Too bad, but it is. So to take that leap feels like death, feels like going crazy. The odd thing about it, as R.D. Laing says, is unless you go mad, you stay crazy. Yeah. And he goes, the American public, more than any other collective group in the world, is crazy because it's afraid of going mad. So we're stuck in a little pickle. So we're starting to want to know more and more and more about things. If I just figure this out, then I can change. That's crazy. You can't do that. It won't take you there. You can't think your way out of this situation we're in. It requires a leap. So let's talk about that now. Fourth point. So the dream is the first point. The archetypal shift is the second point. The third point, perception is not reality. The fourth card I'm putting down is unafraid minds evolve. Contrary-wise, terrified brains stay stagnant and repeat. So I'm introducing another word here, mind. Brain synapses, mind consciousness. We have to make the leap from the brain into consciousness of the mind. Unafraid minds evolve. Joel Kramer, who is a philosopher and was in town not long ago, put it this way. This is an unprovable belief. If the human mind is unfettered and unfrightened, it is interesting in what's going on around it. Say that one more time. This is an unprovable belief. If the human mind is unfettered and unfrightened, it is interested in what's going on around it. You gain access to some other force and source that I'm going to start calling now independent reality. Okay? We have synaptic reality, the artifacts of your brain's idea of itself, and we have independent reality, the source that the mind accesses. If, though, you're afraid, you can't access it. Fear constricts the capacity to evolve. Now is the time to evolve. If you continue to indulge your brain's synaptic reality, you've missed the boat. The boat has left, by the way. If you're still waiting for the dinner bell on the Titanic, you're going to go hungry. Again, not in a negative, oh my God, the end is near. No, just saying there's an express going on here. You must be able to feel it. You must be able to sense the energy that's available. Tell me that some of you do. That's why I'm standing up here ranting and raving. I'm getting some head nods. I can take you there in a second if you want to go. Okay? Here's a simple thing we can do to get in touch with what I'm talking about as far as this energy. Okay, the point I've just made is unafraid minds evolve. The fuel for that force is breath. That's the octane. Most of us, many of you know me, most of us don't breathe well at all. We're unconscious of our breathing. So if you want to get a sense of what I'm talking about as far as the energy goes, do this with me. Why do you get so dry when you talk? Kind of loosen up for it's passion, that's true. That's right, girl. That's right. What we're going to do is we're just going to breathe. I'm just going to ask you to breathe with me 20 breaths. Okay? We're going to breathe through our mouth. You don't have to do this because you might faint. But you'll wake up. Because the CO2 level kicks in and go, whoa. We tried to do that as kids, right? Spin around, faint, fall over. Okay, all I'm going to ask you to do is very simple. We're going to breathe 20 times. We're going to breathe like this. I'll mimic it first. Okay, that was 2. Okay? So here I go. I'll count. You breathe with me and see what happens. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Twelve. 17. You with me? That's called prana. The Vedic and Sanskrit philosophy calls that prana. It's as close as your breath. If those of you who went with me, you're kind of tingling. I'm kind of like, whoa. You get to do that all the time. But fear inhibits breath. So unconsciously, your parasympathetic system, your autonomous system, is driven by fear, and this is how you breathe every day. And every once in a while, I go, what was I thinking about? And if you do take a big breath, people go, what's the matter with you? Are you okay? Where have we gone? So we inhibit the very thing that's our God-given right, breath. That's what we start with. That exhale, the last one we do. Shlina Firna, good luck. If you don't have a connection to your breath, you can't have connection to this energy I'm talking about next. But I just wanted you to feel it and sense it, how close it is to you. All you have to do is breathe consciously. I'll slip that in there. So the idea that the brain generates a synaptic reality that is repetitive, and the idea that the mind is the access and generates the connection to this flow that's accessible through your breath, is based on the assumption that there is a mind. The brain, the brain research is receiving a lot of money by the National Health Institute, has for a long time. The brain is kind of God, because the brain is the archetype center of Hermes, of intellect, of thinking. It's got us. We believe that we can find the answer in the brain, and that's a wonderful thing. We found all sorts of answers, and answers are good. They don't take you very far, because you're going to need more. But it's based on the idea that there's a closed system called the brain. So you have to come to some terms in your own personal sense of reality. If there is an open system, or if it's just all about the closed system of the brain. So I'm suggesting there is an open system, mind is the access, independent reality is the flow. You gain access through your breath. Okay. 2 more points. Okay, 3 more points. Emerging, evolving, unfolding pattern. Okay. There is a genetic, evolutionary pattern that has been in the simplest single-cell bacteria and is in our complex brain and body. It's emerging and unfolding. I'm going to read a quote. We have these available. And by the way, the other reason we want you to sign up for the email list is I've written an essay on all this, so you don't have to, pay attention to everything. And you can gain it through the email. I'll email it to you. It's an 8,000-word essay called Connections. So if you put your name on there, you'll get it within a week. This is the quote. It's from a woman by the name of Barbara Hubbard. Nature always creates new bodies for new frontiers. Witness the sequence of bodies from fish to amphibians, to mammals, to humans, and now to universal humans. We are at the threshold of genuine newness. The only difference between us and other creatures who experienced a radical change is that we are entering the process consciously. We have gone through hundreds of thousands of these changes of body from our single cell to this complex cell. We are now making another leap, and that is into consciousness. It sounds like this if we listen to Gene Houston. Our bodies and minds are coded with an extraordinary array of possibilities and potentials. Coded. Fighting this, by the way, is your suffering. We'll get to that in a second. Some, no doubt, were cooked in ancient caves. Others were laid down even earlier. On the genetic scale, we humans encompass all that has gone before. We are the inheritors of the star stuff from which life came and relatives of every organism on the planet. The remembrances of things past are coded into our bodies. We crawl with single-cell organisms and are home to a universe of bacteria. Briny oceans pool in our blood. Our brain is a nested creature, its oldest reptilian and amphibian core covered over by mammal and human brains, and the promise of something burgeoning, something more. That promise, that evolutionary leap, can only be accessed through living in the now. You can't get there by trying. You can't get there by thinking. You can't get there by being a good person. Now is the time. Let me tell you a story. The other day I was watching PBS, and there was this biologist who was just on fire. Big red hair, she was great. She goes, check this out. Single cell bacteria have these little kind of antennas, and some of you might be biologists, so you can help me here. And they detect what is good, what is bad. This single cell moves towards that which promotes and away from that which destroys. And when they get enough of them together, they light up. Those are 2 important points. Even at a cellular level, organisms know what to approach and what to back away from. And when they get enough of those who are in unison, in concert, in harmony with them, they light up. They become luminescent. This room can light up. Actually, it kind of is. Yeah, let's turn off the lights and see if we glow. I mean, we're getting close. We're getting close. If we kept breathing, you would. But I promise. Okay. 2 more points. Independent reality is the next evolutionary jump. Say goodbye to your personal reality, folks. It's not that interesting, it's repetitive, and it drives you nuts. Or at least the person you live with. But you too. It's addictive, it doesn't serve you, it repeats itself, and it's run its course. It's been a hell of a run. How many years should we put on it? Some people say since the Old Testament, since basically the Word came into being. It's a great book that talks about when the Word took over from the image, when the masculine function took over from the goddess function. Goddesses see images, the goddess whole worship went to the masculine function of the law, the 10 Commandments, and thought and thinking. So what, 4,500 years run? That's enough, isn't it? The Mayan calendar is a wonderful thing to think about. I don't know if any of you pay attention to that. Cycles within cycles rather than a linear thing. It has a grand cycle that's coming to a close 12, 12, 12. You got 5 years left. Giddy up. I don't know about those things. I don't have any beliefs about that, but it's kind of fun. It feels kind of that way. And what that cycle concluding means simply is, according to those who have understood the Tzolk'in, which is the round way of keeping time in the Mayan world, is that the next step is to be informed, but by light, not by thoughts. In other words, the resonance with this energy that I'm calling independent reality is how you become informed. So our idea is, in order to access independent reality, you have to have a pretty clear mirror, just like on the telescopes. If you got a lot of static, if you're on the cell phone, you're going to miss the call. In other words, how do you start to access this independent reality is the only question that I think is worth asking now. And I'm suggesting you access it through being calm, clear, centered, and compassionate. That's the access code. You can't get there any other way. You have to have a daily practice which allows you a certain kind of calmness, a certain type of clarity, a certain type of centering. It's an active verb, actually. Centering and compassion. There is a literal flow moving through the universe. Since, I don't know, about 40 years, I think, there have been balloons on the edge of our atmosphere tracking the radiation of the Big Bang to see the nature and composition of the universal energy. Guess how it breaks down? Dramatic pause. The universe is made up of 5% of this stuff, matter. 5%. Around that is called dark matter. 30%, 32%. And around that is dark energy, 65%. The universe is 95% invisible. What are you going to place your bet on? Good luck. If you're going to hold on to 5%, you're going to suffer tremendously. There is this independent reality, 95% of the flow of life, independent of your perceptions, independent of whether you're having a good day or bad, or if you're afraid or not. I'm suggesting that you change your bet from the 5% to the 95%. Currently, the physicists in Switzerland at the CERN reactor, which is a 27-kilometer affair that the Swiss have been building for the last 30 years, and they're doing this right now, we might all blow up tonight, recreate the Big Bang. They're throwing photons and electrons and neutrons, or photons, you guys know about this better than I do, they're throwing the particles at each other so they can have the collision and see how that shakes out. Because the question is, why does matter have to have mass? Photons don't have mass, they're matter. Light doesn't have mass. It's what makes up the composition of the universe. And we're addicted to mass. So independent reality is the 95% flow of the energy of the invisible universe that's independent of your synaptic reality. And as long as you're addicted to your synaptic reality, you're going to miss that ride. And I just really wanted to tell you about that. That's what I was told to do. And I'm pretty much done it. I've got one last point, and then we're going to talk. The openness to this flow, as I have already talked about, but will mention again, requires a daily practice. You can't get there without a conscious daily practice. And part of that practice has to be yoga. You have to be able to do this. It's not that much to ask. You have to be able to be balanced. The flow is actually palatable. When you breathe, you can feel it. When you're accessing it through opening, you can feel it. Because the only thing you have to do, it's so damn simple, it doesn't cost anything, is to breathe and be open. You have to learn how to be open. That's how you access this flow. You can't access it like this. You can't access it like this. So we're going to have three other parts to this, if this works for you. I don't know. We'll try. We'll see what I think about this afterwards, too. It feels pretty good. I'm really loving that you came. It means a lot to me that you're here. But the next one will be what inhibits that flow. They're called moods. And men have them just as much as women do. Sorry to break it to you guys. You just don't know it. Every time you're complaining about her mood, it's yours that you're talking about. Get used to it. Moods, the repetition compulsion, and anxiety create the shadow that keeps you from this light. So I'm going to talk to you about the shadow. Moods, anxiety, repetition compulsion. Give you a little insight about how that keeps you mucked in the mire. And the value of the shadow. It's half and half. It's not all evil. We have to go into the shadow before you can get into the light. If you try to jump right into the light without attending to the shadow, you burn up in the new age. You kind of get goofy. You know, everything is just wonderful. You know, and there are people blown apart in Baghdad in body bags all the time, and just, well, it's just wonderful. I can choose to feel wonderful. Whatever. There's a shadow to this, and we have to wrestle with that demon. And then I'll talk about yoga flow and how you open up to that flow a bit more. Give you some pointers on how to do a practice. To conclude, 2 things. This is a very important night for me personally. This is the first time that my son and daughter have heard me talk. And my daughter just graduated from high school today. So Brian and Abby, stand up. They're proof of evolution, because they're so far beyond me. So just want to let you know it's true. We are evolving. It is happening. It's a beautiful thing. And you can't evolve unless you access this independent reality. So years ago, 16 to be exact, I was fasting on the mountain. Never said this out loud. And a traditional fast sent up by some crow men. 3rd day, hadn't drank or eaten food for 3 days. Wasted. I'm gone. I'm about to leave this body. Get a phone call. That was before cell phones. Ring! So I'm dreaming. Am I dreaming? Anyway, I get a phone call. And it goes, this is the first of 4 messages. This Jehovah-esque voice, which you would expect of the son of a minister, to hear that voice. This is the first of 4 messages. You are to greet the greeter. I've just done that. Thank you.